What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another edition of the Morning View. Yes, we are back. Now, you might say, hey, Owen, I thought every single time there's a match, especially the one the size of last night, especially the one the caliber of last night at the Camp Nou, Barcelona, Manchester United 2-2, I thought you'd be live in Panenka Studios. Well, don't you worry. I will be. Maybe not live, but I will be in Panenka Studios later today. We are going to have another edition of Matchday Reloaded, so don't worry, that's not going anywhere. But I thought this morning I had to go live because it's deadline day. Not that kind of deadline day. It's soft deadline day, which, depending on how you listen to it, might sound like something different. It's regarding the Takeover bid, yeah? Soft deadline day is today. Friday, February 17th is the first deadline, the first probably of a couple, but the first deadline when it comes to bids or proposals, maybe not so much bids, but proposals to purchase Manchester United from the Glazer family. So we're going to be talking all about that because prior to the game last night, it was kind of wild because we're all sitting there, we're getting nervous. We're looking at the team news. We're seeing the Manchester United players getting ready on the pitch of the Camp Nou. We're seeing Erik ten Hag do his interviews and saying, I want to come here, I want to attack them, I want to win as Manchester United. And then, just before this is all happening, suddenly all of this noise starts to happen. And I say noise, I mean chatter about the possible future of the ownership of Manchester United, because lots of noise was coming out specifically from Qatar about an imminent bid or a declaration of interest or a £5 billion offer for Manchester United. So we're going to get into all of that this morning. In addition to that, we are going to talk about some of the other parties because it's not just a one-horse race, even though it kind of does feel like it at the moment. So we're going to be talking about all of it. We're going to be talking about numbers. Again, we're going to be talking about what it could mean for Manchester United, the next steps, how quickly this whole process is going to happen. Is it going to be months? Is it going to be weeks? Is it going to be done very, very quickly? And I want to get all of your comments up on the screen as always. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Rich is in the chat this morning saying, morning, Owen, huge day for you. Indeed, huge day for us. Well, every day feels like a huge day for us, certainly, doesn't it, at the moment? Keegan, one of our members, says, $5 billion from Qatar. Let's hope Jim steps up. Keegan, maybe a Jim fan. Interesting. Love says, big up, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the game last night. Keegan also says, where is Mr. Trillantula? Big up Marcel, certainly. He held down the fort at UVHQ yesterday doing the interviews. Did a fantastic job, as did everyone at the studio last night. Big up Louis, Paolo, Haley, DJ, Steph, and Marcel did a fantastic job there, as did everyone. The team is teaming, as Flex would say last night. You know, you've got Flex and KG out there in the Camp Nou watching the game, representing UV. They're at the press conferences, all that fun stuff. You got the team at UVHQ. You had Kenny and myself chatting after the game, and we had, most importantly, all of you tuning into all of it and giving all of your comments. So thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I mean, speaking of the Camp Nou actually as well, keep an eye out because later today, not sure when, but later today, there is going to be, you asked for it, a Barcelona mega vlog is on the way with Flex, KG, and Josh. That's all coming soon as well, so keep an eye out for that. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Click the notification bell, and you'll be notified every time a video does go up on the channel, or we go live, because we could go live at any point as well, because there's so much going on at the moment in the world of Manchester United. Right, let's get into this Qatar bid. Let's start off with this. So as I mentioned, late last night, prior to the game, rather yesterday, suddenly you started to see on Twitter all of these seemingly Qatari accounts and Qatari journalists basically say that Manchester United was Qatari. Lots of people suddenly were doing copy and paste, put it into Google. What does it actually say? Now, one of the tweets, and this comes from the account at Qatari, who is a sports journalist and writer who works in collaboration with several outlets in Qatar, seemingly, said that after the roadblock of Liverpool's owners and the refusal to give a percentage exceeding 49%, which of course is a controlling percentage in which decision-making takes place. Of course, you have to remember, Liverpool also seeking those strategic alternatives at the moment. Liverpool are up for sale as well, and Manchester United certainly have completely stolen their thunder, really, when it comes to this entire takeover and sale process. I have heard nothing about people wanting to buy Liverpool. Maybe it's because I'm in the Manchester United world and I'm in this Manchester United bubble, but I don't know about you, but we really have not heard all that much about interested parties in purchasing Liverpool really since Manchester United released that statement back in, what was it, November, early December. Now, initially, according to this report, the Qatari investors, whoever they may be, it's not QSI, it's not QAI, it's someone else, apparently. Initially, they were interested in Liverpool and they wanted to buy a percentage exceeding 49%. They wanted to buy a controlling stake in Liverpool. And by all accounts, the Liverpool owners refused to budge on that. So they changed course and they went for Manchester United. And the next part of the report was certainly interesting because they say, quote, very simple steps to announce the acquisition of United. Let me repeat that once again. Very simple steps to announce the acquisition of United. Again, that's coming from out in Qatar itself. Now, you could be a little bit concerned by that because you could hear, wait a minute, their initial interest was Liverpool. United's second best. United's their second option. We're nobody's second option. We're nobody's backup. However, I would take a step back and I would say it's important to look at things in context, particularly the timeline of all of this, because of course, Liverpool were the first club to announce they were for sale. So naturally, Qatar would have seen that Liverpool were up for sale and they'd gone, we want to go for Liverpool. And then, let's face it, the moment that Manchester United becomes available, plans change. I was going to go for Liverpool, but the biggest club in the world's up for sale right now. One of the biggest clubs. You know, a global juggernaut of a not just a football club, a business, a brand, an entity. Everyone knows who Manchester United is. Even if you're not a football fan, you go, I don't really watch football. Manchester United, yeah, I know who Manchester United is. And I know Liverpool are up there as well, but Manchester United, it's still there and there, really, when it comes to, you know, worldwide appeal. And when Manchester United become available, that's just, well, it's different. And it's really interesting. I would really recommend, particularly on a day like today, where you've got this deadline, this soft deadline going on, I really would recommend to go and watch Flex's interview with David Hellier from Bloomberg, renowned, not just journalist, but a financial journalist and sports finance journalist as well, because it's really important. We're hearing, obviously, lots of news and lots of journalists, sports journalists coming out and giving their stories, giving their reports, explaining what their sources have told them. But when it comes down to the minutiae of the finance side of things, how these takeovers work, and again, the significant steps that go into it, David Hellier did, I think, a really good job of explaining that, and also explaining the chronology of how this really Qatari interest in Manchester United came together. As he said, prior to the World Cup, the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, there wasn't that much interest from Qatar in purchasing United or really expanding their football empire, right? They've got PSG, they've invested in Braga as well. I think they might have some other minority stakes around the world in smaller clubs, but they didn't really have that interest in expanding into the Premier League. And because of the success of the World Cup, it's kind of two things. It's because of the success of the World Cup, but it's also because of timing. So they're buoyed by the success of a World Cup that was very well run. Obviously, there was so much noise surrounding it as well, and that's not going to go away as well. That's just going to get bigger. I mean, The Athletic reported yesterday that several groups had written to UEFA, sort of pleading with them not to allow this deal to go through if indeed Qatar are the preferred bidders. But buoyed by the success of the World Cup, Qatar had decided, you know, we want to expand this. We want to invest and we want to purchase and acquire another club. And we want it to be in the Premier League because the Premier League is the biggest club in the world. Yes, we own PSG, but nobody in the country watches PSG. They'll watch them in the Champions League. Think how wild that is as well. PSG has some of the biggest global superstars. You've got Neymar, you've got Messi, you've got Mbappe, you've got Sergio Ramos. You've got, I mean, the list goes on of all these people you've got at that club, and still people in Qatar are nonplussed, but they don't care. They're watching the Premier League every single week. And to their thought process, the Qataris, they're thinking, well, okay, a Premier League club becomes available. First it was Liverpool, and they're thinking, we'll go for Liverpool. And then United comes up and they go, sorry, put that to one side, no thank you. And by all accounts, the Emir of Qatar is a Manchester United fan, and now it's just a case of how much. And when it comes to how much, and then this is when it gets really, really serious. That was before the game. The game happened, and what a game as well. And we are going to talk about the game in today's edition of Matchday Reloaded, which is coming later on. So be sure to stay tuned for that later on today. But after the game, then it came out once again. This is when you know it really is serious, and it's no disrespect to the sports journalists, because we are going to quote them this morning. But when it's coming out from major mainstream news sources outside of the football space, i.e. Sky News, i.e. Bloomberg, all that kind of stuff, then you know, okay, things are moving at a very rapid pace, a very serious pace here. And pretty much once the game ended last night, Sky News ran with it, saying that the Qatari Royals are planning a £5 billion opening bid for Manchester United, which again was in line with those reports that were coming out of Qatar prior to the game. So realistically, you've got sort of a 2-hour period there. You've got, before the game kicks off, noises come out of Qatar saying that, you know, Manchester United is Qatari, or Qatari. It's very simple steps now. They've decided they're going to do it. They're going to place a bid. In that 2-hour period, then you've got these, you know, high-profile news agencies ringing around, going, "Hey, what's this? Well, I'm seeing this. What's going on with this? What's going on with this?" They're getting confirmation from their sources that's saying, "Yeah, the £5 billion bid is incoming." And to be honest, from what we have heard previously, that's kind of the figure that the Glazers are looking for. We've heard 5 to 6 billion. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it is that amount, because we had also heard previously in other reports that, you know, but they didn't want to get into overspending, and they didn't want to just lay down and give everything that the Glazers want, and the Glazers want this to be in a bidding war as well. But certainly, and again, it's important to say as well when it comes to the deadline today that it's not even to put bids in today, as David Hellier also said. And again, I think this is a real key thing in the interview that Flex did with him, that today, this soft deadline, it's just about statement of intent, really. He said that, you know, you put in a couple of paragraphs explaining, I guess, who you are, what your bid could be, your statement of intent. I don't even know if it's proof of funding today. And then, because they're submitting this to the Rain Group. They're not even submitting this specifically to the Glazers. They're submitting this to the Rain Group. The Rain Group will compile all of these declarations of interest. I guess they'll whittle it down into a shortlist. They'll present this shortlist to the Glazers, and the Glazers will have a look at it. It will then go back to the respective bidders, and they'll say, right, put a bid in. What are you saying? How much are you thinking? And it should be a kind of closed process, i.e. they shouldn't really know what the other bidders are offering, but it will. That's how it's going to happen. Now, as I mentioned, that was coming out from Sky News last night, saying that the Qatari Royals were to bid £5 billion for United. Now, Kaveh Solokol from Sky Sports also expanded on this a little bit more, saying Qatar and the bid from Saudi Arabia are expected to be the only ones which will not rely on borrowed money to finance the deal, which I think is key for Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But obviously, we hear borrowed and we hear debt, and as United fans, we put red flags, you know, sirens start playing when it comes to all of that kind of stuff. And an interesting report did come out a bit later on last night, in my opinion, from people close to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because it was kind of like, I might be losing the public court of battle here. And it was insisted that it wouldn't be debt leveraged against the club. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So it would appear that Qatar and Saudi Arabia would be these only two bids that wouldn't rely on borrowed money. From Sir Jim Ratcliffe, we know it's JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs are financially backing that. There are loans out against him and Ineos, not Manchester United, for that bid. US consortiums, usually as well, they'll have backing from certain banks and certain investment firms as well. The Qatari bid would have the blessing of the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who is a Manchester United supporter. And a Qatari bid for Manchester United would lead to significant investment being made in the team, Old Trafford and the city of Manchester. The Qataris are ready to spend significant sums in restoring the team and the club's infrastructure to its former glories. Which again is interesting that Kaveh Solokol would say that in that report, because it's kind of a two-pronged approach, isn't it? You've got one, it's putting it out there to the media, this bid's going to happen. We're interested, we're going to put this bid in, this is our plan, this is what we're going to do. But also, it's music to the fans' ears, because what have we always said? It's not about money, it's about strategy. And already, they're starting to put out into the media what their strategy would be. To some people, and for me, I mean, it's not enough. Other people, it might be enough. But when they start saying, we're going to spend significant sums on restoring the team, people go, oh, that's it, no problem. I'm happy with that. Not a problem whatsoever. Now, for me, that's not enough. when they say, but we want to restore the club's infrastructure to its former glories, we want to invest heavily in Old Trafford and the city of Manchester, that's when people start to go, well, they're already starting to lay out their plan. They're already saying what they're going to do. They're not just saying, okay, 5 billion, okay, we're going to buy the club. Now it puts pressure on these other bidders, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the Saudi bids that by all accounts will be incoming, these US consortiums. It's kind of, it's a serve, and what are you going to put back to us? We've already said how much we're going to pay, and we said what we're going to do. What are you going to do? And this is where it gets really interesting, because again, today is the soft deadline, and today is, I think, a day which there's going to be a lot of jockeying for position in the media. I think there's going to be a lot of sources close to stories coming out today and in the next couple of days. But now it's a case of people are going to start laying out their plans, and it's starting to get very interesting as well. So again, very interesting that they would say that as well. Now, we are going to talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bids and also as well in just a second, but I do just want to continue on some of the other Qatari stories that came out last night as well, because it wasn't just from Sky News, it wasn't just from outlets based in Qatar, it was also from other financial outlets, from Bloomberg, saying Qatari investors are readying a roughly £5 billion, $6 billion opening bid for Manchester United. A consortium including Hamid bin Jassim bin Jabba Al Thani, the country's former Prime Minister and ex-head of the Qatari Investment Authority, is putting the final touches on a proposal to acquire Manchester United from the Glazer family. Once again, that comes from Bloomberg as well. So again, that's a respected financial outlet, massive financial outlet in Bloomberg as well. And again, it's interesting, the people involved, because again, this is when it comes to what's the distinction from the QIA and the QSA as well, and what's the distinction between the people that own PSG and the people that want to own Manchester United. And it had been reported by Mike Keegan previously from the Daily Mail that UEFA were already content with the separation between the two clubs and the separation between the two owners. However, as I mentioned, some people are outraged already by it, saying, well, they're all owned by the same people because the money all comes from the same place. And again, that's an interesting facet of this as well. But I think also the names already being put out there, Hamid bin Jassim bin Jabba Al Thani, and the ex-head of the QIA. That's an important thing. The ex-head of the QIA are going to be leading this consortium, this separate entity, I guess. But some might say, well, if he's the ex-head of the QIA, surely he's still going to have links. And again, the money's still going to come from the same place, right? And again, how they offer that distinction, I don't know. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing of how they're going to get over those regulatory issues. But by all accounts, UEFA don't mind. And honestly as well, Al Khalifi, the PSG chairman and the head of of QSI, is very tied in with UEFA. I did see a story yesterday saying Alexander Sefrin, who is the UEFA president, is running unopposed in election, and it's very interesting, right? Very, very interesting, nevertheless. In addition to Bloomberg as well, and we're going to get to some of your comments in just a second, it also came up from Simon Stone from the BBC last night, saying that it is expected there will be a bid from Qatar. There is also expected to be at least 2 offers from the United States, and there have been suggestions of interest from Saudi Arabia. Despite suggestions that United have not attracted the interest expected by their owners, insiders have told BBC Sport the process has proceeded positively, which again was a strange sort of narrative that came out previously, wasn't there? That that people weren't interested, or it hadn't attracted the amount of people that the Glazers had expected, which I always felt was nonsense, because again, these kind of situations to possible investors or people that want to spend that kind of money, it doesn't come around that often. And the bidding war for Chelsea last year, for me, was more than enough evidence that there was a significant group of people that were willing to spend billions of pounds to purchase a Premier League football club. And again, no disrespect to Chelsea, or actually some disrespect, who cares? They're Chelsea. They're not Manchester United. They don't have the following. They don't have the fan base. They don't have the revenue streams that Manchester United offer. Again, we're talking the top of the top in terms of global appeal and global awareness. These opportunities to buy this scale of a business in the footballing world do not come around that often. Now, part of the problem could be that nowadays people like to buy a smaller club, a somewhat smaller club, put money into it and build it up. But Manchester United, despite the huge amount of investment that is required in the stadium, in the infrastructure, in the surrounding areas of Old Trafford, in the team, in the women's team, in the academy, and the training ground, and all that kind of stuff, the revenue streams are ready made. That's the key thing. And it's kind of just surreal that we're even talking about this, right? For so many years, we've come on videos like this and said, well, the problem is with the Glazers, they're not going to sell. They're never going to sell. And we were saying that, only a few months ago, right? Even last summer, when Sir Jim went out and Ineos did that thing saying, I'd love to buy United, but they're not for sale. And everyone sort of went, I guess the Glazers is just never going to sell and we can keep doing our thing. And now we're talking about deadline day. We're talking about £5 billion bids. We're talking about significant interest, several parties coming to the forefront. It's kind of surreal to be talking about this. Certainly it is. I said I was going to get to some of your comments, and I will. We've got nearly 1,300 people watching. How many likes have we got so far? Let's have a check. 173. It's a big day, folks. It's a big day. If today we can't get to 500, 600, 700, 1,000 likes, I feel like today of all days should be the day that it does indeed happen. Super chat from Amanor, I want to find it so I can get up on the screen here. Says, Owen, KG gave Weghorst man of the match. KG is a disgrace and a cheat. KG is, ultimate flip-flop. Flip-flop settings. I thought Weghorst did well last night. I'm going to save it for Match Day Reloaded later on, but I just thought United in general, I was so proud of that team last night, honestly. And they're such a great, likeable group of players. And I know you say, well, you're proud of a draw, Owen. You're proud of a draw. Yeah, I am. Considering where we were this time last season and considering where we were earlier on this season, I mean, we come out of that disappointed last night because we should have won, in my opinion, 4 or 5-2. I know, those salty Barcelona fans that suddenly appear in the comments quite often, which is bizarre. We're like, but in the last few minutes, Casemiro hit the post and David De Gea made a couple of saves. Well, okay, but that was in the dying minutes. That game could have been dead and buried by that point. Your keeper kept you in the game. Weghorst missed a 1-on-1. Makes a save from Rashford. Sancho should have scored as well. That's at least 3. I mean, I thought at points of the game we were dominating Barcelona. Dominating. And is that the best that La Liga's got to offer, really? Because if that's the case, my goodness me. And you're going to be worse off next week. You've got no Pedri, you've got no Gavi. That was nowhere near our strongest team as well. Are you kidding me? Christian Eriksen injured. Anthony injured. Martial injured. Lisandro Martinez suspended. Marcel Sabitzer suspended. You got 5 first-team players missing. And at points we were dominating you in your back garden. And this is a side that's lost, was it once in La Liga? They've conceded single figures when it comes to the goals. Obviously they're a threat, but at the same time, Manchester United. And this says it about Erik ten Hag. He went to the Camp Nou and played Wout Weghorst as a 10 and dominated. He played Aaron Wan-Bissaka at right back. Nobody saw that earlier on this season. It's honestly, it's crazy, And that's what's wild as well. Is he played Wout Weghorst as a 10, Wan-Bissaka at right back, Luke Shaw a full back at centre back, no problem, Camp Nou. You think Wout Weghorst would play as a 10 for Barcelona? Of course he wouldn't. Nowhere near. And let's be honest, he wouldn't even be at United if we had money in the January transfer window. That's what Erik ten Hag can do. It's, oh my goodness me. And that's when you look at some of these takeover bids and you go, imagine you say to Erik ten Hag, you can get any player you want. It's not like before. I mean, he got significantly backed in the summer, Ten Hag. He did. No doubt about it. I'm not even saying he's not. He spent 250 million. But this guy has proven that he knows the players. I say he's the best scout at the club because he goes, need him. He's good. Bring him in. I saw a thing last night of Lisandro Martinez. You see these Jamie Carragher clips. I'm convinced. Lisandro Martinez didn't even play last night, by the way, but he's in the conversation with the best centre-backs in the league, even the world at the moment. That's a Ten Hag call, Terrell Malacia, what a snip. He was brilliant last night. Tenacious. So, I mean, and this is 7 months in to his tenure at Manchester United. And it's just, it really is, it's incredible. And, I mean, I think that now, ironically, the thing's completely flipped because there's actually a little bit of pressure on us now. There's a little bit of pressure on us now when we go to Old Trafford next week because I think the expectation is that United might win. and Barca rent all that. So very interesting. Cotty Jake says they didn't want to spend that money till we got injuries. Don't forget that, Owen. Well, yeah, obviously there's context there saying that obviously we panicked and we spent a lot of money, particularly when it came to Anthony. But my point is that Ten Hag got what he wanted. That's the key thing too. Ten Hag got what he wanted, and look at it. And he didn't get everything he wanted as well. Imagine if he did. But yes, to steer it back to the bid, and as mentioned, be sure to smash a like on the like button. We've got nearly 1,500 people watching. See if we can get to 500 likes, so just less than 250 likes away. But that is the sort of the latest when it comes to the Qatari bid. I mean, a little bit more as well. Mike Keegan, who has been, in fairness to him, all over this story when it comes to the Daily Mail, has written that Qatari investors are confident they will win the race to take over Manchester United, and the club could be in new hands. And this is quite a bold statement, actually, from Mike Keegan. He's saying that the club could be in new hands within 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And we had heard that first quarter of 2023, but 6 weeks feels like a very expedited process, and to me that sounds like not a lot of negotiation. That seems to me like 5 billion, bang, you wanted 5 billion, there you go, take it. Now again, they are set to make an offer which they feel will be the strongest, and again that appears to be at that £5 billion price. It can also be revealed that their bid will be made ahead of today, ahead of the 10 p.m. soft deadline for interested parties to submit their offer. Once again, that is today, that soft deadline, 10 p.m. Not necessarily bids have to be in by, but statement of intent. But I suppose what you could say from Qatar, I mean, other people might be doing, okay, we're going to submit these paragraphs, we're going to say that we're interested, we're going to do this, that, and the other. But if Qatar come in prior to 10 p.m. tonight and say 5 billion, there you go, you know, speeds things up, certainly. Well, who says they have to, who says they have to adhere to the timeline that the Glazers want or the Rain Group wants? You know, who says that? You know, they might think, well, we want to start now. We've made our decision that we want to make the bid, and now that we've made our mind up, we're just going to put it in. And the aim is to ensure that the process is completed by the summer transfer window. According to Mike Keegan, it is understood that based on the interest shown, United could have new owners by the end of next month. Again, this process could be expedited up when it comes to, according to Mike Keegan as well. So again, certainly really interesting from him. Now, again, we're not just going to talk about Qatar, even though, again, a lot of the news is coming out about Qatar this morning. And again, from significant outlets as well, you know, such as Bloomberg, such as out there in Qatar itself, such as, you know, BBC Sport, such as Sky News as well. There are also other interested parties. Interestingly, ESPN, again, prior to the game last night, they also went with these stories about the Qatari interest, but also other people that could be interested as well. They were reporting ESPN that multiple Middle East consortiums are expected to confirm their interest in Manchester United by submitting proof of funds ahead of potential takeover. A consortium led by Qatar's Sovereign Wealth Fund, Qatar Investment Authority, is expected to make an offer to take full control of Manchester United. At least one other bid from Qatar, fronted by private investors, but with the support from the QIA, is also expected for Manchester United, while the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has encouraged interest from private investors from their country. And to be honest, I kind of push back on ESPN saying a little bit that bit at the start where they're saying there's going to be 2 bids from Qatar, because that to me doesn't make any sense. I mean, from the way I see it, and again, this is not me insider sources or anything like that, this is speculation, but again, despite the insistence that they are separate entities and they're not linked, let's be honest here, they are. They are, and they will be. Now, I think what they'll try and do, and this is what's been reported, that they'll try and do, is say, well, they're run by 2 separate entities, PSG and United, in the same way that RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg, they have RB in front of it. They're owned by the Red Bull Group. The money comes from the Red Bull Group, but they're operated as separate entities. They're run as separate entities. There's no crossover. Sign a bit of paper. That's it. And the precedent has been set with that. And that would be, if this did go really far, and I don't know that it will, but if it did go really far where UEFA blocked a potential takeover bid from these Qatari investors because of their concerns of possible crossover between PSG and Manchester United, they'll have strong footing, certainly, because they can point to the precedent that's set. If it got even to a court of appeal or a legal situation, which, to be honest, I just don't think it will. I don't think it will get that far because, again, according to the reports that were put out there, it's UEFA are fine with it. UEFA are fine with it. As I spoke about earlier on in the stream, right at the beginning, and this is what the outlets from Qatar were saying last night, and it was backed up by Rob Dawson from ESPN, that the QIA had held talks about investing in Liverpool, but sources told ESPN the focus was now on acquiring Manchester United. According to those outlets in Qatar, that was because basically they wanted to buy or purchase a 51% stake in Liverpool, and by all accounts Liverpool pushed back on that. I don't know, and I don't particularly care. Rob Dawson also said that US asset manager Oaktree Capital has also shown interest in purchasing Manchester United. Again, I think that's going to be one of these American consortiums that are going to be on the table. Certainly, we had heard that for months, hadn't we? That all of those people that were unsuccessful in purchasing Chelsea, all of those people that weren't the preferred bidder for Chelsea and lost out to Todd Boehly, they'd also be interested. I mean, if they were going to put, Chelsea was sold for, was it 4.5 billion? Was that dollars or pounds? You can let me know in the live chat. But those people that were unsuccessful, if they were willing to put down 4.5 billion, they'll put a similar bid in for United and see what happens. Ultimately, it's probably going to look like that it's not enough. It's probably going to look like that's too short, especially when it comes to the Qatari bid. Again, if the Qatari's opening bid is £5 billion, that to me already seems higher than what some other people were willing to pay. We had seen previously, according to several outlets and reports, that a lot of people were starting off at, say, £4 billion, £4.5 billion. The stress was that we're not going to overpay. We're keen we're not going to overpay. And the Glazers tried to counteract that and counterbalance that by saying, well, if it's not the right amount of money, if it's not the right amount bid, we'll walk away. We'll look for a minority ownership. We'll look for a minority stake. Maybe we'll buy out our siblings. Maybe it's a game of succession. I haven't even seen the show, but I kind of get the reference. I think that's about family drama in business. Maybe it'll be something like that. We could do that. Remember that story that came out earlier this week? The Glazers, they're considering buying out their siblings. No, they're not. They're not. When they see these kind of things coming out going, Qatar wants to pay $5 billion, they go, what? $5 billion? Wow. About that. about buying out their siblings. I think every one of the Glazer family, I don't know if they're technically billionaires in terms of net worth, but in terms of liquid cash, they could be billionaires. All 6 of them in the space of a couple of weeks. And to them, what do they care about? They don't care about United. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about success. They care about money. And when you're putting that kind of money on the table, suddenly that sibling rivalry might just dissipate a little bit. Just a little bit. Now, another story, and again, this is everywhere, and as expected, it's a massive story, not just in sports, but also just news as well. This came from Matt Lawton from The Times, who also reported last night that Manchester United hope to be under new ownership before Easter, which again is within this 6-week timeline by the end of Q1 of 2023. So it's not just the Daily Mail saying that, it's also The Times saying that too, that Manchester United hope to be under new ownership before Easter, with a bid from Qatar due to land today, as well as offers from a number of other serious bidders. Offers are expected to arrive from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, which we'll talk about shortly, as well as a group linked to the Qatar royal family. Major offers from the United States are also anticipated, while the bid from Saudi Arabia has also not been ruled out. According to Santi Awuna as well, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos' offer to buy Manchester United will be sent out today. It should be around $4 billion plus incentives, but already... And this is, I guess, why I think the Qatari bid and the Qatari representatives are very confident about their bid to purchase United, is because when they see, okay, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's putting in $4 billion, they're like, well, we're already $1 billion ahead, and we've got room to go, and that's always been the discussion point, hasn't it, about Sir Jim Ratcliffe is, can he actually afford this? And to be honest, it's kind of a wild situation, really, when you think about it. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is Britain's wealthiest man. He's Britain's richest man. And Britain's richest man can't actually maybe afford Manchester United. Do you think how crazy that is? And he's securing loans from JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. Now, it was interesting, very interesting, now that we're on Sir Jim Ratcliffe. This was reported from The Guardian last night. saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid to buy Manchester United would not burden the club with debt if successful, with the billionaire rejecting any leveraged buyout of the type used by the Glazer family. Which again is quite interesting because I'm pretty sure that that's not even legal anymore, so I'm not sure how he could reject that. Now, this is a thing that would also pique people's interest or kind of push people back, I think, on the Ratcliffe bid, in my opinion, saying Jim Ratcliffe is understood to see any acquisition of Manchester United as an opportunity to shape his legacy. Now, I don't know about you, but when I heard that and when I read that he's seeing this possibility to purchase United, this possibility to own this club as an opportunity to shape his legacy, well, I would say it's not about you. As an owner, it's not about you. That would be a concern. That would be a concern for me, right? It's not about you. It's about the club. It's about the stadium. It's about the training ground. It's about the team. It's about the women's team. It's about the academy. It's about the community. It's not about you. If you're getting into this, and you could argue this might be the same things with Qatar, because you can argue, well, it serves a more nefarious purpose to shape image of them globally and legitimize them when it comes to the world of sport and other things. And that's a fair, I don't want to get too political, but that's a fair thing too. But at the same time, you know, if you're getting into Manchester United for self-serving purposes, that would be a concern. But at the same time, people will talk about ethics as well. But the really interesting question that was asked by Flex to David Hellier in that interview with the Bloomberg journalist that we did was that, and this would almost be my concern, is that does Jim Ratcliffe, I mean, so he's got the financial backing from these banks. And again, he's saying that, you know, it's not against, the debt isn't against Manchester United, it's against myself, and it's against Ineos. So there is a distinction from what the Glazers did, and I think that's important to point out. But as some people will say, debt is debt. You know, debt is debt. And, you know, what happens if the interest rates continue to go up? What happens if, you know, there's an issue with, I don't know, Ineos struggling to pay some of those debts back? He's less inclined, one would think, to invest in Manchester United. And in the same way that already this Qatari interest, these Qatari consortiums or the Qatari private investors, whoever they are, because we still don't have a huge distinction as to how they are, who they are rather. If there's a struggling to pay them back, and we would be talking about massive loans here, you're less inclined to invest in United. And the Qataris have already laid out their plan. You know, they've already said through the media, according to sources, that we want to invest heavily in the team. We want to invest heavily. Well, we want to, you know, invest in Old Trafford. We want to invest in the wider community. We want to invest in the city of Manchester. What would Sir Jim Ratcliffe do? What would he do? Especially when he's having to put things together to make bids for the club. Now, obviously, again, it's important to state that acquiring loans to fund a purchase, a takeover on this scale is not uncommon, not at all. Todd Boehly and his consortium acquired loans to purchase Chelsea. That's not uncommon. But at the same time, when you're talking about competing, you know, when you're talking about competing with state-backed, and that's what the Qatari thing is, a state-backed bid, you're never going to be able to compete. Even Britain's wealthiest man is not going to compete. And, you know, it's, for me, I just don't see Sir Jim Ratcliffe being that guy. I don't. I think that, and again, social media isn't the perfect litmus test or the perfect polling opportunity. Maybe I should put a poll in the chat in just a second. Maybe I will. But it does feel like certainly the fan sentiment isn't there for Jim Ratcliffe, in my opinion. I mean, earlier on in this process, and when I say earlier on, I mean last summer, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe was the only option, when it was just him fighting the cause, right? It was Michael Knighton. Well, what a lifetime ago that seems, by the way. When he was doing all of those, you know, weird videos and all that kind of stuff. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe was the guy. He was, you know, the White Knight in all of this kind of thing. And it was going to be, he's going to come and he's going to save Manchester United. He's going to buy it from the Glazers. Everyone was like, Sir Jim, bring Sir Jim in. But now, as Simon Stone said in his report for BBC Sport, now that there are several other people at the party and people that are willing to maybe do more than Sir Jim is, then suddenly he becomes not the preferred choice. And because there might be better options for United on the table, according to some. I think I'm going to do a poll in the chat, actually, so bear with me because I've got to put this back. This is big stuff, so a poll is required. Start a poll with the audience. Who is your preferred owners? And I'm going to say Qatar. I'm going to say Sir Jim. What other options? Saudi. Or I'm going to put US. I think that's it. I think that's all of the ones. I mean, I'm generalizing a little bit there. But those are the preferred ones, certainly. We've got nearly 1,700 people watching, which might be a record for a solo morning view stream with myself. So I appreciate everyone tuning in so far. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. We're still not at 500. We're about just over 150 likes away from 500. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Remember, you can join the UV members club as well. Links in the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. Get your badges, your emojis, your exclusive members only content. We were actually having a discussion about what new content to bring for the members club, since it's growing so quickly recently. So there's been lots of discussions about more Q&As coming up soon, different kinds of content, maybe involving some Marvel or DC stuff. I know you guys enjoy that. Of course, UV Raw, there is a, this isn't for the members, but there is a Barcelona mega vlog coming out later today at some point, documenting Flex, KG and Josh's time out there in Barcelona for that Europa League clash at the Camp Nou too. Matchday Reloaded is also coming later today as well. But given all of this takeover situation, I just mean I had to talk about all of this morning because the news is just continuing to expand. Now, the Guardian also in their report last night said that those already in the bidding process are likely to speak more publicly about their intentions, which is, as I just was speculating on, earning the trust of a fan base wounded by the Glazer era, which again is very, very interesting for me because I felt that, and I said this a couple of weeks ago during I think it was a morning view that I did with Flex, that this is what we'd start to get. Once we start to get concrete offers and concrete interest on the table, then it's about winning the court of public opinion. And particularly for someone like Jim Ratcliffe, that might be his last Hail Mary attempt at being the preferred bidder, honestly. But it's funny because for us, as fans, I guess that matters. For us as fans, it matters. What are your intentions? As I've said, it's not about money, it's about strategy. So all of these interested parties, they're going to come out, one would think. I mean, the Qatar, and that's my point about the Qataris, they've already come out and said it. They've already come out and said, we're going to invest in the team heavily. We're going to build a new stadium, basically. We're going to invest in Manchester, and we're going to invest in the infrastructure. They've already done that. So now it's upon these other interested parties to come out and do just the same. But it might already be too late. And again, whilst that matters to us, to the Glazers, they could give a shit about that. They could care less. To be honest, when we're talking about this soft deadline today, we're talking about paragraphs and we're talking about, 2-paragraph statement of intent, maybe their plans for the club. You don't even have to do 2 paragraphs with these owners. You just have to put the fee. You just have to put in your offer number. They could care less about any other thing. That's what they'll look for. Control F. They'll look for pound or dollar sign. That's all they'll look for. And they'll go, okay, which one's the highest? That one's the highest. We'll go with that one. Well, actually, no. Actually, we won't go with that one yet. We'll push back to the other ones going, they've offered this. Do you want to outbid them? They might as well forget the Rain Group. Get an auctioneer. A bit over there, a bit over there, a bit over the Qatari, bit over the Qatari, bit over the US consortium. What about the Saudis? Blah, 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 blah. That's what they'll go for. I mean, it's going to be like Homes Under the Hammer, Old Trafford. That's it. That's what they care about. Forget the paragraphs. Forget it. What are your plans? What are your money? What about money? That's all that matters. And that's what they'll want. And they'll be very happy, the Glazers. Despite all of the infighting and despite Joel and Avram wanting to stay around, allegedly, and the other siblings not wanting to stay around, all they'll care about is they'll go, actually, there's a lot of people interested. We can drive this price up. We really can. Old Trafford under the hammer. Done. That's it. You'll get Dion Dublin doing that walk around. Is that the show he does on BBC? When he goes stairs all the way up to the bathroom or stairs all the way up to the bedroom. He'll do that at Old Trafford. As you can see, stairs go all the way up to Sir Alex Ferguson's stand. Stairs all the way up to the dressing room. Stairs all the way up to the dugout. That's what we'll do. Get Dion Dublin in. He used to play for United. Whoa. Can you imagine? Vote in the chat saying, and to be fair, they'd have to point around Old Trafford. They would go like, that needs to be fixed. That's leaking. This plug. They'll do like the light switch thing. Don't work. Tap. Nothing comes out of that. How much are you willing to invest? How much did you buy it for? At auction. Let's look at the vote already. Less than 5 minutes in, nearly 500 votes, and overwhelmingly, Qatar seemingly is the preferred option here from those in the chat. Certainly, who is your preferred owners was the question. 77% are saying Qatar, 13% are saying Sir Jim Ratcliffe, 8% are saying a Saudi bid, and only 2% are saying a bid from a US consortium. Certainly very interesting there. A couple of super chats here. Uncle M says it's hard to find someone with 4 to 5 billion who can think of other people for themselves. I mean, it's a very good point there. You mentioned Uncle M. I mean, there's that statistic or report, I forget what it is, saying that like a high percentage of CEOs have sort of psychopathic tendencies, you know. And the thing is, when we talk about billions, and it's a really good point when people do this, is that, you know, it's almost possible for not the average man, you have to get quite a bit of luck, but it's possible to become a millionaire, right? Through hard work, through determination, for a bit of luck and a bit of genius, you can become a millionaire. A billionaire is, it's wealth that almost, if you think about it too hard, it hurts your head. So think about that for billionaires. And then on top of that, when you talk about these sort of state wealth pots, it's, I mean, you talk to people, they'll say it's wealth that you can't even comprehend. We don't even really know how much it is, right? We don't even know how much it is. And again, and I think that's why the Qatari consortium, or whoever they are, that's why they're confident their bids will blow anyone out of the water, because in Sir Jim Ratcliffe's mind, he'll have, and maybe according to the JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, he'll have a limit to what he's prepared to spend. Right, and it'd been reported this morning it was like 4 billion. Maybe in his mind, he'll go, the highest I'll go to is 5 billion. The Qatari bid, they'll be like, it doesn't matter. We can just keep going higher. We can keep going up over and over and over again. You know, they can't compete. And if it does get into a bidding war, they've won. They have, and that's what the Glazers want. The Glazers want a bidding war, so it plays into their hands. Kyle with the contribution, appreciate the contribution, Kyle. Let's see what some of you guys are saying also in the chat too. As I mentioned, I do want to get some of your chats up on the screen. It's not just about super chats. Let's see what some of the members are saying. The reckoning just says Asna in the mud. Why haven't I put this back up? That's why I didn't change it. See, this is the behind the scenes you don't see. Let me get that. So I want to get your comments up on the screen. Will this go back up? There you go. It says Asna in the mud. What else are people saying here? James said Qatar said they won't overpay. Well, they won't, but at the same time, you have to take that for what it is. That's in the media. In the same way that the Glazers have said, "Oh, we're willing to walk away if they don't pay us if people don't pay around the right amount of money." They don't want to seem overly keen in both perspectives, right? They don't want to seem overly keen to sell the club, the Glazers, even though they are, because if they seem overly keen, and that's why they keep floating around that minority stake, is they want to get an offer that would give them no choice but to accept. If they have the perception, if bidders have the perception that the Glazers are still on the fence, they're inclined to offer more to change their minds. And it's the same when it comes to Qatar. They don't want to seem overly keen, because if the Glazers know that at all costs the Qatar wants to purchase Manchester United, they can drive them up. We can squeeze a little bit more, you know. And I think that's part of it too. Amir being a United fan and having cash is the reason I hope they win the bid. Well, actually, that's an interesting point there. Put in the live chat who you would like and why. I think that's interesting. Obviously, we've got the poll that's still ongoing. It looks like the Qatar option is going to win that poll, but there's still plenty of time, as we've got about 10 minutes or so remaining. Let me know who you would prefer to win this bidding race for Manchester United, and why. Let me know that. We'll get your comments up on the screen. That's what I want to do for the last 10 minutes or so. Dwayne Rogers, one of our members, says the legacy statement makes me want Jim more now. If it's a legacy, you put money into something without wanting anything back. It's like rich people building a hospital and putting their name on it. Interesting perspective there. I mean, I somewhat agree and disagree with you there. And again, appreciate the comment, Dwayne. My concern is sometimes with a legacy project, it's just about owning it. I own it. Are you going to do anything with it? No, but it's mine. I own Manchester United. You know, I think there's part of it, and I think that's an interesting way to look at it, and you could look at it like that, and he could frame it that way, but at the same time, sometimes with people's legacy, it's just to own it, not to improve it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of been the case with the Glazers to an extent, right? It was a case of, their primary function was take money out of it, make themselves money, but at the same time, we're associated with United. It's our name. One of our members, Ed, says, as I said before, fans just see PSG City and get gassed off oil money, when in reality, non-oil owners can be good. Say what you want about FSG/Cronkies, but overall they've been solid the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, the thing is, though, with that, Ed, it's relative, isn't it? Because you say that, but I also see a lot of Liverpool fans saying FSG out. For how long did we see Arsenal fans saying Cronkies out as well? You know, I think, again, that's... I think that's a double-edged sword, to be honest with you. And look, the Liverpool are up for sale at the moment too. What else are we saying here? AB says the legacy comment turned me off regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid also as well. United supporter says American owners haven't been good, both FSG and ASNA owners as well. What else are we hearing here? I want... I mean, apologies, because I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but I want to do my best. Attachum, you can let me know. Spell it phonetically. Apologies. Says, I want an owner who wants United to be successful and will invest. Ramik says, Owen, who has your vote? And has said about 10 million times. Please no spamming in the chat, of course. As to who my vote is, I've said this before, and you can say, Owen, you're sitting on the fence with this one. I want who is going to do the best by Manchester United. I mean, I think like many people, I have real concerns about people taking money out of the club, and it would appear that none of these prospective owners are going to do that. Okay, that's a tick in everyone's box. I like, in the same, the debt thing, whilst Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid wouldn't have debt against the club, the fact that there would just be debts in general is a concern. As I've said before, it's about money. It's not about money, it's about strategy. I think the Qatari one is really interesting, and I think that in terms of what Manchester United need, the Qatari one might be the preferred bid, because honestly, the level of investment that is required and the strategy that is required at Manchester United is almost astronomical, and I'm not sure that anyone else apart from the Qataris can really do that, honestly. What we're talking about here, even if we just scrap, transfers, because I think people get so focused on that. They see Qatari ownership and they say, we're going to buy Mbappe and we're going to buy whoever it may be. And it's not about that. It's not about that at all. It's not about that at all. What it is about investment, again, in the stadium, in the training ground, in Manchester, and in the in Am I back? I'm back. I think I dropped out for a second, which would seem so conspiracy. Imagine that. I'm back. I saw it drop out, and I thought, here we go. This is going to be like, you asked him who his preferred bidder is, and it dropped off. No. Could you imagine? I was censored for a second. I just saw at the bottom of my screen, it went like orange and red. Apologies for that. But no, I want who wants the best for Manchester United, and at the moment we still don't know who's on the table. But I've been censored. I've been censored. Apologies. And I saw a comment that said, "Oh, you've put down every other bid this morning." Well, I tried not to. I try not to. What I will say is, I'm trying to report what is the news that is out there this morning, and the majority of the news that is out there this morning is about Qatar. I mean, the Sky News are reporting it, Bloomberg are reporting it, Sky Sports News, BBC Sport. They're all going with that, and all the other bids at the moment, in terms of the attention, seem almost what's the right word? When it's sort of, what is it when you look at the corner of your eye? But I'm trying to think of the right word. Preferal? Preferal? You could let me know what the right word is. I'm trying to think of the right word when you're talking about your peripheral vision. Periphery. There you go. Thank you, Makish. I was thinking that, but after I took the mick out of Marcel for Trelantula the other day, I was thinking like, but all the other bids feel quite on the periphery. Thank you, Nikki. Yes, they do. They do. They in terms of the attention that they're getting right now, and I think that's why I'd probably be leaning towards that. I mean, the majority of the mind. Look, obviously, the discourse about the political side of it will continue, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. Of course it's not. I mean, we saw it during the World Cup. That will continue. What I would say with it is that it's very difficult, because where do you draw that line? Because we already have these state-backed clubs. We already have PSG. We already have it in the Premier League in Saudi Arabia with Newcastle. So where do they decide to draw that line? It's going to be very difficult, I think. So, I mean, we'll see how this one plays out. Because again, I think that now today certainly there's going to be so much about this, and after today as well, we're going to hear about who did submit a bid or who did submit a declaration of interest and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be fascinating, certainly, to see. What else are people saying? IM says, so if investment in the city is a good thing then. So if investment in the city is a good thing then, I'm really struggling with the downside here, fellas. Oh, referring to the Qatari bid. What else are people saying here? AW says Qatar has the best understanding of how to run a club and clearly know how to build a new stadium. Cotty says no such thing as moral billionaires. Get off your high horses. My Damned United says, but we don't have it in our club, Owen. Have some bloody integrity for F's sake. Well, look, again, I think people are going to... And this, to be honest, before I wrap things up, this is almost the difficult part of this too, is that... almost every option's then a bad option, because there's downsides to all of them. Downsides to all of them. Obviously, like I said, with the Qatar situation, there's obviously the political discourse about that goes around, and that's absolutely justified and a well-worthy conversation. Same with Saudi Arabia. But when you come to the US bid, people are talking about the debt, and we don't want people to have the worst interest for Manchester United as well. It's a difficult one, certainly. I think it is a challenging one. Just to wrap up before I wrap things up here, to the poll in the chat saying who is your preferred owners, Qatar leads the way with 79%, Sir Jim Ratcliffe 13%, Saudi 6%, and US 2% there as well. So there you go, guys. I'll wrap the poll up there. I appreciate you all joining me this morning. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. We're less than 20 likes away from 500, so if we can get there, that would be fantastic. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. Click the notification bell. You'll be notified every time we go live, every time a new video is coming up. Again, so much coming up today. As I mentioned, we have got Match Day Reloaded. I know some people said, you haven't spoken about the game, Owen. But the game... a separate show is going for the game, and I did talk about the game a little bit. This is what's funny sometimes, actually. When people tune in, like for 20 minutes or whatever, they won't see the entirety of the show, and they'll be like, what? Why? You're a disgrace. You haven't spoken about all this kind of stuff. Match Day Reloaded is coming later today. I did talk a little bit about the game in the show, and then when I didn't, people said, why aren't you talking about the Takeover bid? You're a disgrace. So Match Day Reload is coming later today. Keep an eye out for the vlog, the Match Day vlog. Barcelona versus Manchester United is also coming out later today. And of course, if we get any more news about this Takeover bid, we'll let you know, certainly. I'm out of it. Have a great Friday, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.